record for tying a boat. And then this is Joe Swallow, who was the state rep in the 105th district at that time. And Massey showing him oil on a rag there. The fuel oil on the boat was what they call bunker C, which is a very, very heavy oil. In fact, it won't burn. You cannot light it on fire. You could take a torch to it, it would not start on fire. In order to get it to burn, it goes into what's called a day tank, which is got heating elements in it, and it has to be heated so it thins down, and then they atomize it into the diesel engine, and it'll burn that way. This is some of the crew pictures. This is, anybody know Harold Spiegelmeyer from out in Osneek? Nobody? That's Harold with the fire hose down in the engine room. And whoops. Okay. My helper here. Yeah, we'll find it here. I tell you, my saying about technology, my wife would slap me. Technology is a great thing, but every once in a while it bites right in the butt. So this is the engine room, and it's actually, this is the second level of the engine room. So the actual deck of the engine room is probably down 15 or 20 feet below where we are there. So the water level was that high in the engine room. Okay? So there's where the lake level is at that point in time. There's a catwalk that went all the way around this engine bay. And we dove off of that because it was inside, we were protected, the water in there was always calm. And you had a place you could have spare tanks and all that sort of thing. And we always had a diving tender there to help us in and out of the water and make sure that any tanks that were sitting there that we were going to be using actually had air in them. Tell you a story about that. This guy, oops, this guy back there is my younger brother. His first job was working for Bob Massey on the Massey D that summer. Pretty good summer job. Massey paid his people very, very well. This is Bob Massey here in wetsuit, and his partner Dave Funk. Two really great guys. And this is what you looked like when you came out of the fuel tanks. Okay, we had this really heavy oil. It's almost like tar. The minute you went, and the tanks are in the bottom of the ship and up the sides, but you got into them most of the time through a manhole in the lower deck of the ship. When you went through that manhole down into that fuel tank, lights out. You could not see anything. It covered your mask completely, and from then on you were down there by feel. So what you had is you had a suction hose and you had a steam wand, and they were mated up, and you had to keep that moving. If you held it in one place, it would suck all the heavy oil from a little area around it, and then it would be sucking air or water. So you had to keep this thing moving, and you were heating the oil and sucking it simultaneously. And we pumped it up into that engine room. And then from there, we could pump it over into the tanks on the Massey D. So this is what you looked like when you came up out of those tanks. That's Dave Funk, and he's completely covered in oil, which is not unusual. That's how you were. And this is what we did afterwards. We had one of these cow troughs up on deck, and we had a boiler up there that we were using to produce the steam to soften this stuff up. So we fill a tank with water, or use a steam wand in it to get the water temperature up. And then when you came up, you got in that, and you scrubbed off, cleaned your suit up, and simultaneously warmed your body up. Because your body temperature dropped quite a bit if you spend an hour or two down in one of the bottom tanks. This is looking down above the engine room on this ship, and on a lot of ships was a big skylight, removable skylight. So if they're doing engine work, they could take that skylight off, and you could lower all kinds of big equipment down into the engine room. Okay? So this is taken, somebody is standing up looking down through that where the skylight was. And that's yours truly right there. So the engine is right below me. The engine is right in this area right here, the top of the engine. Up here in this area, right in here, there was almost like a little tunnel that went back, and there were 2 spare pistons hanging up in there. Pistons are about that big around. Pretty cool. I've had some close calls in my life. The closest call ever was on the Nordmeer. And when I went down, as everybody did, you went down, you took 2 air tanks. The one that you were wearing, you took a spare. When you got to the manhole, you put your spare by the manhole there. So if you got down inside that tank and you ran out of air, you just had to come back to the man. You could tell when you're down at the bottom of the tank. Go back to the manhole, you had air right there. Just take the regulator, stick it in your mouth, and you're back to business. So we had this diving tender before my brother, whose job it was to make sure that all the tanks that got onto that gangway around the engine room were full. Because you couldn't tell that easily. When you're all suited up and you got a tank on, you grab that spare tank, down you go. So I'm down there, and we tried to really lengthen out the amount of time we could spend working. And so you tried to breathe very slowly, or skip breathe. Take a breath and kind of hold it for a little while before you take another breath. And I got to where I was about sucking the bottom of the tank out. And I followed my hose back to the manhole and reached up and grabbed the regulator, stuck it in my mouth and sucked, and there was nothing there. And I reached up, figured it was turned off, and I turned the valve and still nothing there. The blasted tank was empty. And I'm about 75 feet from the engine room in a tank on the bottom of the boat. So I had to go out of the hole and swim 75 feet and before I could go up into the clear area above the engine room. And I passed out. I remember looking up and seeing the sort of mirror-like image of the water in the engine room, and that's all I remember. But I had enough momentum that I came up in the engine room, and the guy that was on the catwalk grabbed me, because I was on my way back down. And that's as close as I ever came. Let me tell you, dying by asphyxiation is not a bad way to go. As long as I had that mouthpiece in my mouth. If I wouldn't have had the mouthpiece in my mouth, long before I ever got to the engine room, I'd have taken a great big gulp of water, and that would have been it. But I sucked on that mouthpiece. I'll tell you what, I'm surprised that the tank on my back didn't crumble on me. But you sort of get warm all over and lose consciousness. It wasn't a real big deal. What is it? This looks like the photographer was a little unsteady with the camera. That's not the case. If you look back here, you see water blowing up in the air. That's kind of unusual. One of the conditions of the contract with the feds was we had to blow a hole in the top and the bottom of every tank that we said was empty, so that they could see water flowing through it and they knew that we didn't leave oil. So Bob Massey and I did all of the explosive work, and we were setting charges of 20 sticks of TNT. And we would take it down and put it on the tank, and we would take sandbags and put sandbags over the top of it, and then it was electrically discharged once we got back up on deck. And another close call was when we would get the charges and we'd get over on the deck of the Nordmeer, the Massey D would back away from the boat, fearing that concussion from the blast could blow the bottom right out of this 1905 built boat, okay? And so our sort of maintenance man on the boat was another Besser guy, Dwayne Dusterhoff. Some of you may know Dwayne. Dwayne could get a little excited about things. And we discovered that we had like 4 bundles, 20-stick bundles of dynamite sitting on the deck of the Nordmeer. We discovered we didn't have any blasting caps. So Massey yells to the boat, "Hey, we need blasting caps." Dusty runs back to where we kept the blasting caps, come running up to the bow, and threw this box of blasting caps at us. Let me tell you, a lot of things can go through your head in the, the 25 feet it took for that box of blasting caps. Because if it would have bounced off the hull of the boat, because right behind us was all steel, it could have bounced off of that, I would not be here telling this story today. So that's what that was. We were blasting then. I think it was kind of late in the year. We were towards the end of the contract that we were blasting. And then, can't remember what the date was on this, October 23, 1970, the feds announced that there was no oil left on the Nordmeer. The job was done. This was the article in the Alpena paper. That's Bill Richardson from the Federal Water Quality Administration shaking hands with Massey. And these guys up here, the guy on the left is the truck driver that hauled the oil. A guy from East Tawas that had a salvage yard down there, scrap yard basically, bought all the oil. And he had figured out a way where he could burn that in his business. And so he bought all the oil. He would send the truck up to offload it. The guy next to him here is the famous Dick Piper from Alpena. Probably a lot of you guys know Dick Piper. Piper spent a lot of time out on the lake. Another Dick Piper could do just about anything. He was a handy guy to have around. He was good with equipment. Another real tough customer. He was a good shipmate because we didn't ever have alcohol available. When we got to port, then that was a different story. You guys know Dick, you know that's true. So 71, this is what she looked like. Again, from a distance, it's still, there were a lot of guys that sailed on the Great Lakes that I sailed with over the years. They never realized, they would ask, what the heck's that boat tied up off Thunder Island for? So here's a little later. You're seeing now that she's busted up, settling more. Her superstructure's starting to get beat up pretty bad. Whoops. There's even a little later period.
Yeah, that's about time out.
Story about the stack there. Thunder Bay Island Light was still manned in those days. Walt Plohaki was the bosun's mate that was in charge of it out there. And Walt was a pretty good buddy of ours. We would always check in with him on our way out, and we'd check in with him on our way back into Alpena. And we were always telling him, listen, we got this thing just about pumped out. We're going to be bringing her into Alpena, Walt. And, oh, yeah, you guys are pulling my leg, So we had a whole lot of straw out there that we used to soak up oil that would get tracked up on the deck and stuff. So it was right at the end of the job, and we took it, we got all of that oily straw together, and we took it up into the stack. And we set it on fire. And there's black smoke billowing out of the stack of the Nordmeer. Massey calls Plohaki. He said, "What? Here, we're coming." So there's what she looked like in September of '83. And that's the last time I saw her in September of 1998. And all there is that little corner of the superstructure that's still And there she is today. That's a photo from the sanctuary. It's the stern of the boat. You read right there, it says Nordmeer. And I watched this piece of steel right here. This right here used to look just like this. And one day I was up top on the boat, and there was a pretty good sea running, maybe 6 or 7 foot seas. And I was looking aft, and waves were crashing into the stern of the boat. And I noticed that this piece here, over in here, jiggled a little bit. And I started watching that thing. Every time we'd go out there, if there was any kind of a sea, I'd look, and pretty soon it's going like this. And then pretty soon it's going like that. And then the next time you went out there, that great big piece had fallen off down into the water. So you got some powerful forces there. Water itself is a powerful source when you get 8, 10, 12, 14-foot waves. And then think about the ice crashing into it. And ice getting into every crack and crevice in the spring and in the fall, water getting in and then freezing and expanding. And that loosens everything up. So it didn't take all that many years to do in the beautiful Nordmeer. So, any questions? Ron?
You know what the economic loss was, what the insurance company had to pay?
I know the cargo was valued in excess of $1 million. I would think the hull of the ship at that time, well, they thought $4,000 in damaged condition, so, or $4 million in damaged condition. So probably you were looking at $5 to $6 million in 1966, $67.
Did Bob do well financially with this salvage work?
Yes, yes. The oil job paid well, and he had other stuff going at the same time, jobs at the cement plant. We went out to Oswego, New York, and repaired Huron's dock out there that year. That was a big project. It went real well. Bob wasn't looking to get rich by a long shot. He had his pension. Like I say, he paid us very well. Then he went from that, basically the profit from that got turned into equipment for the boat. He bought hard hat diving gear, a big multi-port diving compressor, diving chamber. Alpena's first diving chamber was not at Alpena General Hospital, it was on deck of the Massachusetts. And Greenwood went to school to learn how to operate. And because we lost a diver when we were on the Monrovia job, and Greenwood came out and went to the chamber and pronounced him dead.
Was there ever a diver lost? I heard rumors that somebody perished on that.
On the Monrovia job, we had a retired Navy diver, very, very experienced, and took a lot of grief from young guys that were working for Bob, because this guy was so safety conscious. Always had a nice strap to his thigh, and just everything had to be right by the books. And divers tend to be kind of a loose group. And I think on the Monrovia we were diving like 155 feet or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was deep diving. And you're down in the cargo hold of a ship, so you got all kinds of dangers. And this guy sort of went with the crowd, and he quit wearing the knife on his thigh, and got down there. And what happened, it was angle iron, and it was in 1-ton bundles, and they were wired at both ends. And so we had a headache ball on the crane from the Massachusetts. It had a big hook on the bottom, and we had a bunch of chokers hanging off of that. You go down and use the headache ball, grab those wires, lift it up just off the deck. Then you could put a choker around it, set it back down. Then you could use the headache ball and try to get another bundle if you could. And I think that scrap was selling for $340 a ton at that time. And Bob Saya and another guy from Alpena here went in the steel business. Al Euro steel, and they set up over by where the brewery is. And they had a shot blaster, because this stuff had a lot of cosmoline on it, and like, again, I told you, it rusted the instant you brought it up. And so they were buying it all from Massey for $170 a ton. And then they cleaned it up and sold it. Massey gave the diver half of the 170. And so if you were good at it, everybody made good money. And he, like I say, Bob never hesitated paying you. He took care of the diver. But anyway, the guy picked up a bundle of angle iron, and it dropped on his air hose. And I think he tried to get himself free, not wanting to say. We had constant communications by radio with the surface. That's where the guys, because of the pressure, they sounded like Donald Duck, that high screaming voice. You had to kind of get used to. Anyway, I think he tried to get himself free and he couldn't. His first radio call to the Massey D was, I'm stuck down here, guys. Don't hurry. I'll be dead before you get here. And he was. And we brought him up. We put him in the chamber. We took him down to depth and headed for Alpena, Greenwood. I think Lonnie Kingsbury brought Greenwood out. Greenwood came in, went in the chamber, pronounced him dead. And then two of us spent 24 hours in the chamber because we both had used up all of our bottom time. And so it was touch and go.
I remember the crew over across the road from my shop. They were over there by the Goose Tavern, standing on the corner there. The captain and I don't know, we had 7 or 8 guys with him, and he had looked like a typical sea captain. He had a leather coat, long leather, black leather coat, and a German Shepherd dog with him. And I talked with him a little bit. I know quite a bit of German, and I never saw anybody that was so sad.
Oh, I can
It had to be a real tough thing to tell.
Probably the end of his career. Yeah, the dog, actually, in the story, they flew those guys back to here. In fact, that first bunch of 37 guys or whatever it was, they left immediately from Alpena. The guys that stayed on and had to be taken off, they went in a group. The dog couldn't go.
Yeah.
Somebody locally adopted the dog. I don't.
Is that right?
Yeah,
There's a nice German Shepherd.